Welcome to another episode of Spoiled Anime. I'm, as always, Joseph, and with me is,
Adam.
and we're doing the show Berserk. So Adam's going to give the synopsis, we'll give our approvals, and then we'll move on to dissecting it.
Okay, so Berserk is a sci-fi, or not sci-fi, a fantasy tale. It takes place in a fictional version of Europe, essentially. Um, and it follows around the character Guts, who is an orphan mercenary, and he ends up joining Griffith, who is the leader of a mercenary band called the Band of the Hawk, and it's kind of their story of their rise to power and then their fall. And there's a little bit of craziness about demons in there at the beginning and at the end, which we'll get into a little more. But yeah, it's a it starts off with some demon stuff, and then it goes into the story about how he joins the Band of the Hawk and their whole rise to power and everything. Then it kind of ends off with demons again, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. So, you obviously like this because you were the one that chose it. And I actually enjoyed it, other than the beginning and the end, which we'll get into. If you are going to go watch it now. I'll give you 3 seconds. One, two, three. Okay, you better be gone. All right. I actually thought I was gonna dislike it a little bit because I saw the first episode, and while he was cool, um, it was like it just didn't have a very good vibe. I didn't think I was gonna enjoy the vibe, and then it completely does a 180 and goes to the whole backstory of him, which I found to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the beginning you kind of have. I mean, honestly, when I bought this was just for just straight violence and action. Um, when I actually went to the store and asked them. I was just looking for something with straight action, and the guy gave me this, and I was like, okay, Berserk, sounds cool. And then seeing the first episode is pretty much exactly what I had anticipated. I was like, this is it's action violence, guys hunting demons and kicking the crap out of dirtbag, uh, you know, thieves and thugs and such. So I was like, that's cool. But wasn't really paying attention to it until about the third episode, when the story changes, and then you had uh, let's see here, and then the song is called "Forces." Um, Let me see here. Let me get the name of the artist who sings it. It's you can, if you type in Berserk Forces, you'll find it in Google. Um, it's awesome, awesome stuff. But the song itself just caught my attention. Like this kind of music kicks in that just like dun, 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 and I was like, what the hell is happening on my TV right now? And I saw this awesome raid sequence where Griffith is leading the men through, and it's really quick, and it's not like a long drawn out battle, because I mean most of those kind of battles would be just, I mean, it was a raid, so it was a hit your target, get out, and it was well a well displayed scene. I was like, this is much more than I thought this show was going to be. So I restarted it, and that's when I got back to that first episode, which kind of confused me again. So it's like, okay, how does this turn into what I just saw? And then it flashes back. You see him as a kid, and I agree with you. The demon stuff, like the end and the beginning, to me, while it is it's cool and all, but the story in the middle is just so strong. Like you get so much character development from all of the characters. You get between Guts and Griffith and Casca especially. You get a little bit from all the other secondary, the secondary characters like Pippin and Quercus and Rickert. They're all around. They're all kind of along for the ride. But I mean, Guts, Casca, and Griffith are they're the
The
heart of the
main
show.
players, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're like essentially a love triangle kind of situation, going in all directions.
Yeah.
You know,
Which
it's
is
it's almost like Guts is in certain ways kind of infatuated with Griffith, but then he kind of has this like love hate thing going on with Casca, which later turns into just a love thing. But Griffith is, he obviously cares for them both in certain ways, but in a lot of ways, Griffith is to me, was one of the harder people to empathize with. Because I mean, he is the supremely confident leader
Yeah,
who
who's
who
always got
is
a plan for each plan that he has.
like,
Like he's got a backup for those plans.
yeah, which is awesomely fascinating. But it's like he's 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 inhuman. He's perfect in everything he does, and it's almost, until much later, which we'll get into, where you kind of see a flaw in him. But he was hardest to empathize with, and I mean, both. I mean, Guts and him are kind of both hard to empathize with at first until you start getting more to know Guts. Like Guts seems like this straightforward kind of I'm just going to kick the crap out of everything guy, but then they add so much more to him as it goes through. Like
Yeah, it does
you
a
know,
flashback in essentially what is a flashback to find out more about him as a child and how he was raised, and the fact that he killed his mom being born, and his father essentially was like, "Oh, you're strong enough to hold up a sword. Well, now you're gonna wield it." It's like, well, shouldn't he have like a little sword? It's like, no, he gets a sword that like I would carry, and like he has to wield it. So he's wielding, like it makes it more sense why he's wielding this gigantic weapon because he's always wielded a weapon that was the size of him,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah. He always, since his first sword was as big as him, he proportionally always, as he grew bigger, so did his sword. So until the point when, you know, as he's full grown, he has this gigantic sword. That it's on the level of like Cloud from Final Fantasy. I mean,
Yeah,
it's humongous, but and he wields it around like it's nothing. He can one hand wield it, which to their part they do show him training constant, quite
yeah.
often in this show, like constantly building his strength, like using one arm to practice swinging it so it's not like this dude's just a freak of nature. He actually, they actually show him,
Like he trains,
he does work at it. Like it's not like he's just naturally a freak.
Yeah, exactly.
But but it's, to me, like the whole thing, like a lot of things that like caught me off guard was just like that character development, the political intrigue that was in there. I thought was great. Like you could see all these people scheming against them because the band of the Hawkers comes up from nothing. I mean, they're just normal mercenaries. Like they're not royalty, they're not nothing, but they never lose, and they end up taking on jobs that the normal military who's run by nobles can't do, that they fail at, and then they rise from being just normal mercenaries to a legitimate military force within a kingdom with all the
The
nobility that
perks.
associated with it.
Yep.
And so you get to see all the, yeah, I mean, you were saying about it, how you like the different scheming
Political
that you saw against it.
espionage,
Hmm.
essentially.
Hmm.
Like the brother of the king, who is the high general, essentially the general of all the armies, starts to feel threatened, and so there's a fox hunt, which I don't know why there's always a fox hunt, but there is. Um,
It's an easy place to kill people.
yeah, it's an easy place to kill people. You would think that the king would be like, "I'm not going on no fox hunt." Like that's where people die. But and he finally gets absurd after Griffith leaves like these pretty insanely outnumbering. Like they always against him. It's like what was it? One of them was like 20,000 to 5,000. Like because the band of the Hawks only had like 5,000 people.
Yeah, they're a small band, but they always claim victory.
Yeah, over
Like
like huge odds. And
like seeming, yeah, like every time they go out, it's like seeming more and more. Every time they go out, it's more and more like potentially insurmountable odds that can't be beat. Yet they do, and that's greatly due to Griffith's leadership, both him and a lot of like I was saying, like
and the commander on the
Pip.
other side that's really retarded. The battle
Yes,
tactics guy,
well, that
500 years of battle tactics, 300 years, he just
well,
like
okay,
blows up the
that guy sucks.
yeah. But
but
he's entertaining a little bit, but
yeah, I
it's
mean he's obviously like a comedic role
Yeah.
of the show. But I mean, like, but some of the other people they come are legitimate threats,
Yeah, yeah.
if they defeat them.
Well, that's the
And
thing. Like that
and
guy's
just
also never really supposed to. It almost seems like he's never supposed to be in command, but somehow he like gets the guards or people like to go with him, and like just does really horrible things to the other side. Like the blew up all the armories that were like essentially in the one of the raids to try to kill
that
him.
was the first raid,
I think
or no, that was the
that
second
was the
raid
second
against
raid.
him. Yeah, 'cause-
Um,
yeah, yeah, that dude just gets jacked up all the time.
Like the one where
I,
it's like he
I
can't
want to
pass
say,
this because it's like the bridge, like it was like a castle or not. It was like a strong fort that they, I think it was on their side. Like it got taken over at one point. Like it was them who originally built it, the king that Griffith is working for, or the
mhm.
band of the Hawk is, and he had a boat like set up in the freaking like in one of the moats to take him away. 'Cause, like he's always ready to run. But
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I felt like that character lasted way too long.
I did too, actually.
I was like, okay, this guy just needs to die.
Yeah, in a scenario where stupidity, like, because that's what it really makes it seem like the people that are truly smart get outsmarted, but like this guy who's insanely not. He's just insanely stupid, essentially. Somehow,
I
I
think
guess it's real life too, because
I mean,
those
he's like the
people.
prime example because I mean, he was talking about he has this family lineage, and in those kind of caste systems, they're very much if you're born into it, you're going to be the leader of a military group, whether or not
Yeah,
you actually want to be, and whether or not you're actually fit to be. And I think that's really the case of him. Like he's like, well, I've come from this great family, hundreds of years of military leadership and blah blah blah. It's like, but you suck.
yeah, exactly.
Doesn't change the fact that you are a terrible leader, and that's like kind of the story. I mean, I like stories like that where you see like the person who isn't supposed to be necessarily supposed to be a leader in the system is a great leader, like Griffith, and then like Guts later, he becomes the leader of within the
In the
band of
Band
the
of the
Hawk,
Hawks.
and
Yeah.
then later, and then at the towards the end of the band of the Hawk, and Rich will get into that here in a second. But yeah, I mean, is just so good. I mean, to when when the people are trying to make attacks, like the espionage attacks upon Griffith and them, and they're always a step ahead. And Guts going out to be the assassin and killing people, and Griffith setting whole freaking buildings on fire and killing, like,
Yep, the
I mean, that,
Queen.
yeah, that whole sequence there when like they're planning against the Band of the Hawk, and then suddenly in a sweeping movement, like wipe out all of their opposition.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me it was a very like Godfather esque moment of just I'm taking this now.
Yeah,
Get over it.
and in those moments, there's also the is the probably the hugest revelation to Guts, which is Griffith talking about his dream.
Yeah, that's his like I mean he's and that's like early on you find out he's like I will have a kingdom of my own, and it's like but you're just a normal person, you're just a you're a low-born citizen essentially. You're low-born. You can't have a kingdom.
Exactly.
And he's like, well, I'm going to. Like, and that's the thing that almost makes Griffith. I mean, he's a figure of supreme charisma and power, and there are people like that, and that's what this it's fascinating. It's like these people who exude confidence, who like they're just like it's like you shouldn't be able to do that, and he's like it's like it doesn't their eye and their grasp for things can allows them to achieve things that others see as impossible, and I think it makes him seem hard to relate to, but at the same time there are people like that, so that's what I liked about it, these
Yeah. Well,
powerful
and I was also
characters.
talking about the part where he's talking with the princess, and Guts is coming up, and he's talking
uh,
about how like a friend is he essentially someone who also has a dream, and he doesn't consider any of the Band of the Hawk to be friends, and
yeah,
like hits Guts essentially right in the chest, like right there, because he's that's
because
what.
Yeah, because Griffith was like him was his only friend, like, and and that hurt him. That like I will know, and that's when you really get more development out of Guts is when when he realizes, if I am to be this person that I admire, if I want to be his friend, I have to be on his level, and have more to me than just being a mercenary, just being a fighter, or at least have more, not necessarily, maybe that's all I do, but there's more to him, internally. Like he wants
Exactly.
more. He wants like, and that's the development that you get to see a lot, and that's what caught me off guard about this anime, really, and made it my favorite anime is because you get to see this character who at first seems so flat and so like just your standard powerhouse fighter, but then he really does become a lot more complex throughout the end. And by the end, he's still just. I mean, in a lot of ways, he's still just that fighter. But as a character, as a person, or whatever, he's so much more than that at that point. At the end, he stands for something. He's not just about just money anymore. He wants to be better as a soldier himself, and just achieving things. Man, and then he finds and aside from just finding Casca and really wanting to be a successful leader at that point, not just a follower anymore. And
Exactly.
that's what I think is really cool about this show. I mean, there's a lot of shows where what you get from your character, he's always going to be that character.
Exactly. And the one thing about it is, he's still even throughout the whole thing, he would rather put himself like on the line than to put other people on the line. Like
Yeah,
he has that whole like I'm willing to die kind of thing, but at the
it,
same
but
time
but it's
he
inherent. It's inherently noble
yeah,
the way he
exactly.
does it. Like he has like a noble, like, even though he seems just really brash and I'm just gonna like hard nose into things and fight just because in a lot of ways at the beginning he's more I'm just gonna fight to fight, but in a lot of ways I think it comes across that there is this noble quality to him right out the gate. Like he's willing to sacrifice, like you said, he's willing to sacrifice himself to end something than to have to put put other people in the way. And he's not willing to sacrifice everybody else. Whereas
Exactly.
whereas Griffith, while he is so successful in keeping a lot of his men alive, you don't get that he's not unwilling to sacrifice. Like to him, like if it was for him to get his kingdom, he would easily
Yeah, he
sacrifice
would
the entire
easily
band
do
of the
it.
Hawk,
Yep.
and he does at
Yeah,
the end.
exactly.
I mean, that's exactly what he does at the end. So as later, once uh, Griffith's gigantic meltdown, when Guts decides that he needs to kind of break away for a little bit, and Griffith gives him the same wager he does at the beginning. So at the beginning, Griffith wants him to join the band of the Hawk. And Guts is like no, and he's like, okay, well, how about we fight for it? If I beat you, you're mine. And you know, to him, to him, people are just pawns. They're. I mean, he's a sociopath.
Pieces, exactly. They're just pieces for his end game, which is his goal of like I'm going to have my kingdom. So if I need to sacrifice you, I'm going to sacrifice you. If I need to move you to this spot, then.
And
But
then
that's the thing is later on with Guts, he always asks him to do things, which is I think was his way of trying to show Guts like there is a friendship here, but
I
it
mean,
was already too late because he had already said kind of his spiel and Guts heard it.
I think I think I think him asking Guts like, should we do this? Like things like that. It's not so much like it's almost like self affirming. Like it's not like if Guts said no, I don't think he would actually like Guts almost always went with it.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
like I need you to kill somebody for me. Okay, now and for a long Guts was his tool
Yeah,
for a long time, and then so that's what I think broke Griffith was when Guts says I need to figure myself out, and Griffith with his supreme confidence thinks that he's easily going to best Guts again, but Guts has developed by this point to be much stronger than he was before, and just powers through his sword defense and breaks the sword, I believe, right?
Yeah, he breaks his sword.
Breaks his sword, and it's like, okay, well, and to Griffith, and I think that's why like Griffith kind of loses it, is because it's the one of my pawns just beat me, like this he didn't see it,
Yeah.
he didn't see it coming, which then he loses his nut, and then he goes and sleeps with the princess, like sneaks in like a a thief in the night, so to speak, I guess, and guards catch him, and he gets put in prison, and
And
Band of the Hawk
essentially
kind of
just
gets falls to shit until Guts comes back and kind of doesn't return them to glory, because he uses them. I mean, he gets you feel like he gets them back to like fighting shape, and then they use them to get Griffith back,
yeah.
and then that's when it gets back to the demon stuff, because throughout the story you find out he has this thing that a old fortune teller, Griffith has a egg of the king that a fortune teller gave him a long time ago, saying you're destined to have your own kingdom, which is where all of his source of believing that he's going to have his own kingdom kind of started.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and so then it gets into the whole thing of just seeing how far Griffith fell. Like,
I mean,
the
he was just like I mean, he was a prisoner of war
yeah,
at that point. I mean, he was skin and bones. Like he's what you would expect to see from like a concentration camp, or like anything from those kind of situations where they've been tortured and misfed and stuff like that. So I mean, he was a shadow of himself when they saved him, and like at some point there, you're like, should they have saved him? Like, should they have left him and just let him die, and then reclaim the glory of the Hawk in his name? The Band of the Hawk in his
yeah,
name. But I mean, obviously, that might have been better off for everybody else. Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, but after they save him, I forget how he activates the egg. It just, I guess, somehow he essentially.
He takes off in the wagon in kind of like a hallucinated state, essentially,
Mhm.
which leads him to the river, and the egg has essentially been floating down it. And I
Yeah,
think
because
it was
he lost it in the when he was in prison. It
yeah,
like fell into like the sewer or something. That's right. And then it comes back to him. And this, when you find out he is destined to have his own kingdom. He's the king of the demons.
yeah,
And he transforms into the crazy demon form and starts raping Casca, and or molesting her, and
yeah.
and then that kills everybody except for
Kills
Guts, who like cuts his own arm off to get away and fights his way out, because Guts is badass like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so now he's got the brand of the to be sacrificed, and he loses his eye because
Yeah, so
Griffith decides to stab him in the eye with a tentacle or whatever. And
yeah, so
then
yeah, so he has the brand. So the demons are always hunting him, but he's also hunting the demons at the, so the hunted is becoming the hunter, and it's kind of back and forth. It looks like that, and from what I understand, that manga might still be going, and it's just this, it went for a while after where this anime ends,
yeah,
and it's him fighting demons and stuff to try and
yeah.
kill
Because I
Griffith.
read something. It
Um,
was like he and the chick that he likes escape, but she's like never the same again or something. And they escape by someone called the Skull Knight or something. Like, so it's the reason why he calls himself the Black Knight, like, or the whatever. I think he calls himself the Black Knight at the beginning of
yeah,
it.
yeah, the Black Swordsman
Black
is what.
Swordsman. Yeah, he gets saved by the Skull Swordsman or something. So I don't know. And of course, I'm sure people will be like, a billion comments about the manga, but we're not really commenting about it. We're just
Yeah,
this is the anime, and
I've,
that's where it ends.
I've never seen it. I've never read the manga. I've never looked at it. And honestly, I mean, like, while the whole idea of the guy going out to fight demons thing, in certain ways has been done plenty of times before. I mean, and that's cool and all, but I mean, the backstory, the story of this anime, these mercenaries who come from nothing and fight their way up and then lose it and then kind of reclaim glory for a moment there. It's so good. Like it's like, to me, most of the times when I watch this anime, I don't watch the first episode and I don't watch the last episodes. I just watch all the stuff in the middle,
Yeah.
just because. I mean, because like I said, it's so good. Like that's why it's my favorite. Like that story. Like if
Yeah,
I
and
could ever
also
tell
if
a story.
anyone watches it, it almost seems like 20 and I think I asked you this, 20 like and it was actually it. 24 and 25 are almost the exact same episode with just a little bit more. It's like get rid
Yeah.
of those ones, get rid of the first two, you've got, 22 episodes that are really just good. Like really good.
Like I would I'd want another 20 something episodes of Guts reclaiming the glory of Band of the Hawk.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I would love that story, but I mean obviously that's never going to happen because that's not where the story goes. But I mean it's so good. Like the you can develop all those other characters a little more too even. I mean they're but yeah. I mean I could go on and on how much I like the characters and how I like how they develop. This is the biggest thing I think that caught me off. Like I said, it's there's so much character development and change, especially you get to see in Guts. Even though like he changes a lot, yet there's still some qualities to him that are the same. I mean, he's still a fantastic swordsman, and he becomes more well rounded. And I think that's a mark of a good story. Is and you don't see it very often in a lot of series. Like you know, a lot of times the character you get at the beginning is the character you're going to get at the end.
Exactly.
I mean, this year. I mean, if we look back to some of the ones we've already reviewed,
I mean, yeah,
I
Vash
said
is the beginning as he is at the end. I mean,
absolutely. I'd say the only the character of Vash himself doesn't change. It's the view of the people around him of how they see Vash that changes. Like they see him
exactly.
instead of seeing him as a goof, they see him as this. What he is a great gunslinger. This legendary figure. They don't realize it at the beginning, but that doesn't mean that he's not still that character. He is already a legend, and the same thing could be said about like Kenshin, in the main anime, not the OVAs that actually tell his backstory, which I think are freaking fantastic. We'll get that another day, but like I mean. A lot of those animes where while they're completely enjoyable and lots of fun to watch, and I love them, that the character themselves don't change very much, or at all. Um, I guess Outlaw Star, I guess, would be another one where the character does change a bit by the
Yeah,
end. So, but
that's
I
true. He
think
does a little bit.
because he's not so much the loner anymore. He likes he more so relies on his people and kind of a little bit more grounded. I think by the end, but it's and I think that's what made this such an enjoyable story for me. I mean, it went for me, like I said, it went for me essentially not really paying attention to it, having it as a background noise show, to something I really paid attention to, and I was like, this is really good. I was able to set everything else aside, sit down, and just watch it because it was solid.
Yep. And well, I think on that note, we'll probably close this one a little earlier than we would normally. But I was gonna do Evangelion next, but I'm actually gonna push it back. One more.
That's a
I'm,
big
I'm
one.
sure McLeod will hate me for that because he wants to jump in on it. But I think we'll probably do. I think we'll probably do Record of Lodos Wars this next one, and we'll do one more, and then we'll do the Evangelion one because I'm sure people will be like, oh, whatever. It's gonna. People will really be up in arms one way or the other, depending. So we'll let that one be close to the end.
For Ava.
Yeah, for Ava.
It's a classic. It's
It
good.
is. It is a classic.
I mean, aside from McLeod saying it's not good, but I don't know. I think he's overcritical about stuff, but we'll get to that there.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. All right. So, Record of Lodos Wars will be the next one because it is one of my favorites simply because of I feel it plays to to the D&D kind of style. Like I always
Oh,
watch it and I feel like I can see a group of just, of people sitting there around a table like rolling dice. Like it just has that
it's
feel.
it's absolutely the archetypal like fantasy group movie or group story. It's you got your mage, you got your warrior, you got your healer character.
Yep.
They're they're all there. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that. It's
Exactly. So that's what we'll hit for the next one, and then I'll have you pick after that, and then we'll do the Ava
uh,
on the final on that one. I think that will actually be our final episode for this kind of 12 episode arc, I think, or we'll have one more after that, and I think that'll just be essentially us talking to everybody, kind of wrapping things up for this. So,
sounds good.
all right, so checking the links below for what Adam and I are doing. Please subscribe, and thank you guys for watching.
Bye.
Bye.